Hi everyone, my name is Danny Smith and I'm going to talk to you about conscious eating or mindful eating today. And this is something that I've recently been experimenting with and have just found it so interesting and so powerful. So I want to share it with you. So just to kind of take a step back, let's talk about mindfulness for a minute because I feel like it's a buzzword that gets thrown around a lot, but we might not all know exactly what it means. We have a general idea, but in a nutshell, it's being in touch with our emotions and our physical needs, stepping back, taking a breath, taking the time to be in touch and check in with those things. And then there's spiritual elements to it as well, but it's checking in on ourselves in all areas and being present in the moment, not worrying about the past, not worrying about the future. So what mindful eating is using mindfulness to reach a state of full attention around our experiences, our cravings, and our physical cues when it comes to eating. So what mindful eating involves in general is eating slowly without distraction. How many of us do that on a regular basis? Be honest, right? It's tricky. Listening to hunger cues and eating until we're full, not past that point, right? We're not depriving ourselves of having enough food because we feel like, we have to calorie count and all that sort of stuff. So trusting our body to be able to cue us when we're full. Being able to distinguish between true hunger cues and non-hunger cues, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later on. And also engaging our senses into the eating process. So noticing the colors of our food, the smells, the sounds, the textures, and the flavors. And this is something that I've learned about recently, which is super interesting. I've learned that our body actually starts the digestion process when it starts to smell the food and to see the food. Our saliva starts to prepare for that food. So it's actually already triggering the digestion. So learning to cope with guilt and anxiety around food. So many of us make these links between, eating certain foods and feeling guilty about it or feeling anxious about it. So being able to work through that as well. Also eating to maintain overall health and well-being, making sure that that's the main goal of eating for us, connecting those together. We're eating to fuel our bodies. So viewing food as fuel. And then also noticing the effects that food has on our feelings and on our figure. So I find this so empowering. If you start to really become aware and you take some steps to become aware of what foods are serving you well and what aren't, it takes away a lot of the stress. It takes away having to do all that calorie counting and everything, because our body knows. And it's just about taking the time to actually listen and creating that space to actually listen. And then also appreciating our food, taking the time to actually be present and appreciate it as we're preparing it, as we're enjoying it. So a huge part of this is stepping away from automation, because how many of us, we just are on this routine when we're eating. We kind of eat the same things for breakfast, for lunch. We have the same dinner dinner ideas rotating throughout the week. And that's just the way it is. It's just something that we're used to. So many of us eat so similarly also to the way that we did as a child, because it's just something that's become automatic. So it's stepping away from that and being a little bit more purposeful about the food that we're eating. And listen, we have a lot of distractions in our culture. And one thing that I really like to point out is that if you are not eating the best and you're not, you're having some issues and challenges with your nutrition, please don't take full accountability for that, because it's not just about you, and you are not being set up for success in so many ways because of our culture. We have hundreds of images that are put in front of our faces every single day without us wanting them to, and even noticing it really consciously, about food and different types of food that we should eat that are not healthy for us and that are addictive. And this is something that this is a wrong that needs to be righted. And this is something that I think our government needs to step in and take some steps around this, because we have all of these distractions around us when it comes to food. There's so many choices. We're overloaded with choices, most of them which are not healthy choices. And of course, those are the ones that are the most easily accessible and the least expensive. So it's not just you. And so just please know that. And part of what I'm trying to do is create a community that's going to empower you in these situations. And hopefully we can work together to prevent this from continuing to happen. But we live in a very fast-paced society. We have an abundance of food choices, and it can be hard to make the right choice, right? We also have a lot of distractions, like technology specifically, and our focus gets taken away from eating. We're on the go. We're also eating in our cars through drive-throughs. To me, I think that's something, I know it's super convenient, but I think that's something that is causing us to not make healthy choices is driving through and just eating when we're not paying attention. But when we eat mindfully, we're able to slow down and make eating really intentional. So when we start to pay attention to what is triggering our hunger is also something that can be really empowering, and being able to differentiate between emotional hunger and physical hunger. So what does our body need versus what does our brain want? And this is something I've been experimenting with, and it's like so interesting and so powerful. So I'm a person that tends to go for leftovers for lunch. Nothing wrong with that. It's just what I do. But I started to think, do I actually want this right now? So for example, say I had like a brown rice pasta dish. And if I started to ask myself, does my body actually need this right now? And I was getting answers like, no, your body needs a big giant salad right now. That's what I needed a couple of days, a few weeks ago. And there are days that my body does need that pasta. It needs like a bigger source of fuel, right? But a lot of days it doesn't. It needs salad. It needs a nice, beautiful soup or something like that. So it's pretty crazy. Like, I know some people are going to think I'm crazy when I'm saying this, but honestly, try it. Experiment with it for a week, and you'll be really shocked to see how your body does know, right? Not what does my mind want because it's in automation or because I'm stressed or anxious or whatever, but what does my body actually need? And then at that point, you can also start to become aware of triggers, certain things that are triggering your food choices. So for example, for me, huge triggers are stress and fatigue. So when I'm feeling stressed, when I'm feeling tired, that's when I go for unhealthy choices like chocolate, like cookies, like chips, because I don't feel like I have the energy or the brain space to make something really healthy. And it's a form of comfort, right? Because we get a high when we have those foods, right? So, I mean, I've learned so many techniques, and if any of you guys want to know any of these strategies of how to kind of replace those habits with something else, that's really, really powerful. But the first step is kind of to notice it. What is triggering me to choose these certain types of food? Okay. So there's also been some like really interesting studies that show a correlation between this idea of mindful eating or conscious eating and weight loss and proper weight management. So implementing it, and what happened in some of these cases, they implemented this idea of conscious eating and nothing else, but just conscious eating. And they saw people in the tests start to lose weight just from implementing the conscious eating, which I found super interesting. So I'm going to give you 8 techniques or just things that you can start to experiment with and add into your routine to start to include conscious eating into your day-to-day life. So number 1 is to eat with no distractions. I know it might not be able to happen every time, and it might take a little bit of time to get used to, but it is so powerful. So allow yourself to fully engage in the experience of eating. This will allow you to enjoy your food more. It will allow your body to digest even better. It's going to slow everything down. Allow yourself to smell the food, to see the beautiful food, to take in the colors, to feel and taste, feel the textures and see the textures as well, and enjoy all of the flavors. It's a really beautiful experience. And I think you'll start to appreciate your food a little bit more when you do that. Number 2, if you are going to indulge in something, make it a beautiful, amazing experience. So for example, if you're going to have a piece of chocolate, if you're going to have some chocolate, buy yourself some good quality chocolate if you can, and sit down with it, have a nice cup of tea with it, sit in a quiet, nice space that you enjoy, and allow yourself to really enjoy that piece of chocolate. It doesn't have to be like a long amount of time. It can literally be a couple of minutes, right? But really make it this really beautiful experience for yourself. You will enjoy it so much more. How many of us grab some crackers out of the cupboard, grab a cookie, and we're walking across the kitchen to go prepare something for our family, or to running out the door, shoving food in our mouth? Like, it's taking that automatic kind of filler eating behavior out of the mix. Number 3 is to be in touch with yourself as you are eating. So are you enjoying that food? Is that food fueling your body the way you want it to? What does your body need in that moment? Have you ever had a time where you're eating something and you're like, I actually don't want this? Give yourself permission to step away from that food and not have it. This is one reason why I'm also really a firm believer in dishing really small portions, because then you can go back for more if you want it, but if you don't want it, you don't feel like you're being super wasteful, and you can also package most foods up and eat them at another time when you're feeling that a little more. Number 4, stop eating when you're 80% full. So this is a really good hack to get to the sweet spot of when you're actually truly full. Because if you stop when you're 80% full, what's happening is your body is still digesting. And so within 10 to 20 minutes, you'll probably realize that you are completely full, but your body just hasn't received that message yet. If 10 or 20 minutes later, you feel like you need more, then you can definitely have more, right? But just even creating that space and time in order to give yourself some time to realize, am I full or am I not? Number 5 is let go of the expectation of having to eat everything off of your plate. So if your body is full, and your plate isn't finished, that's okay, right? How many people were raised have to eat everything off of your plate? I know I was, for sure. It's something that I struggle with my kids, because sometimes they're not finishing because they are being picky, and sometimes it's because they're not full. So it's becomes like an interesting dance with them. But giving yourself permission to not finish what's on your plate, because how many times have we done that, where we're eating those last 3, 4, 5 scoops because we want to finish what's on the plate, and then we end up not feeling well later on. And it's just, we're not doing our bodies a good service when we do that. So give yourself permission. You can always pack it up and have it another day. I've had lunches where I'm having, like, literally my husband will make fun of me because I package up this little tiny quarter cup of something, but I'll have lunches sometimes where it's like a quarter cup of this left over, a quarter cup of this left over, and then a salad or something like that. It actually is pretty interesting, and I've had times where I've mixed them together, which has been fun to experiment with. Number 6 is to dish less food onto your plate. So you can always go back for more and allow yourself, but allowing yourself the time to digest a little more and then going back. And this is not about trying to deprive yourself of anything, definitely not. But I often go back for seconds, but I'll dish myself less, and then I'll kind of sit and let my body decide if it wants more. And then if it does, no problem, I go back and get more. And then I also have a better idea of how much more that I need at that point. Number 7, increase your water intake. My goodness, if I could give one tip of how to improve your overall health that's super inexpensive, it's drink more water. It is just so powerful. It can improve our health in so many amazing ways. But the recommendation is to drink half of your body weight in ounces minimum every day. And so in general, to put that to 3 to 4 liters. I was doing half my body weight in ounces, and that was not enough for me. So I increased that. That was 2 liters a day. I increased it to an additional liter, so 16 cups. And that made a energy, notice a difference in my skin, notice a difference in my digestion, so many things. So 3 to 4 liters is a really good kind of marker for that. And then number 8 is experiment with different ways to cope with those triggers, like anxiety, stress, fatigue, for example. We all have these triggers, right? So learning what those triggers are and starting to experiment with different ways to help manage that. So maybe that looks like meditating. Maybe it looks like going outside, going for a walk. There's many different things that you can use as a technique. And then kind of in that same notion is trying to get away from using food as a reward. This is like a very common thing in our culture. We all do it, but finding alternative rewards for yourself that are not food based. So that might be sitting by yourself in silence for a few minutes, taking a couple of deep breaths, right? It can be treating yourself to this would be in a bigger case, but like treating yourself to like a manicure or a pedicure, or treating yourself to like a nice walk or sitting outside in the sun, whatever it is. There's so many different things that you can do. But taking food out of the equation as the reward is the goal. And then a good way to transition into that is using a healthy food as a reward. For me, I actually use the Energy Fizz Sticks as a reward for me. It's a way for me to drink more water, but they're super delicious. So if I drink my 1 liter of water, then I get to have my Fizz Stick and my 2nd liter, which is like a really nice thing for me. So that is mindful or conscious eating, and I'm so excited to share that with you. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. So if you want to comment or send me a message, I would love to hear if you've experimented with this and you want to come back and let me know anything that you've learned. I'd love to hear about that. But thanks so much for joining me, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.